Close, bro. Close.
How many people said yes, Richard? 11.
11 said it.
They
You're
could try,
on
but
this morning.
the outcome will be different. Nobody walking with their hand in the air.
No. Well, Gary Griffith was very
This
clear.
for that done. That walk up with your hand in the air thing after you disrupt the country ain't happening again.
He said it will last about 2 seconds.
1 shot, 1 kill.
Yeah. Run them block.
After you disrupt the country, walk up with your hand in the air. Okay.
Whap, whap. That is what they will be getting from Skelly Bang. Whap, 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 whap. Skelly Bang in the tail.
Getting more than Skelly Bang.
And how it is the man on TV on the
Steve, you need to check off the music at this point.
He's knocked the desk so. Pack, 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 pack.
There we go. Yeah. Right. Okay. So let me try and see if I can get my guess now. I'm a little early, but let me try.
I'm there.
Ragoobarsingh deadpan look.
Oh, he's very good at that, you know.
Yeah, serious deadpan look.
He's very good at it.
It's like, Steve, I hope I do your damn job now. But you're not trying to get a guess on the phone. Yeah, I don't think it's possible for that to happen again in the way it happened before. It's not, the outcome is certainly not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Well, we'll certainly ask the new commissioner because we would have asked Gary.
I know the parliament is a lot more fortified. That doesn't mean insurgents can't try, but then look at what happened in the US on January 6th.
And Capitol
Hill. So you never know.
You never know. That was like a coup, you know. An attempted coup, you know.
It was an attempted coup.
Yeah.
Orchestrated by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And encouraged by him.
Yeah.
And then stay 187 minutes and do nothing. And then say, hey, you're telling you are special and we love you.
Yeah. He was in a room watching it. He was in a room.
He told them time to go home peacefully now. You're special and we love you.
Yeah.
After they ran up on the Capitol and threatened to kill people and bang down and thing, you're special and we love you.
Yeah.
If they throw that man in jail, nothing will ever happen in the US again.
Yeah, boy. US history.
Because if that was black and people running on the Capitol, but then they wouldn't be the same outcome. I'm just telling you that.
But I don't know. I think some black people should have joined in, just for the sake of it.
There were some black people.
There were some black people. Why Steve looks despondent, so?
No, he just needs 5 minutes. Tuition is not confined to one race, no?
That's true.
That's true. Very well.
That's true.
But he said this: you all are special, and we love you. But go home now peacefully. After they run up in the Capitol and break down door and run inside and running through the place and dragging down flag and threatening people.
People died.
Yeah. And the what's his name? The vice president's wife and aide said they thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
And they called, and the staff were calling their loved one and saying, "We love you, goodbye."
Mm-hmm.
So were they fearful for their lives? And the president is telling people he didn't never call the National Guard, never call all the forces. You're all special. We love you. But
wasn't he in a room looking at it on some big screens?
Yes, Ivanka Trump. Is it Ivanka?
Yeah, he daughter.
What's his daughter name?
Ivanka.
And as if it's normal, as like a normal day in the Capitol.
Like they're watching a reality TV show.
Like they watch a reality TV show, and the people breaking down, on the poor guards fighting to keep them out.
Yeah.
And the president, the commander in chief, sit down and then goes on TV and said, "You're special. We love you."
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get my lighting correct. Maybe I have to turn.
Well, if by now you know how to do that, something.
Our conversation. Okay, just turn.
All right. I'm trying.
Yeah, Paul, go ahead. You need some wap wap.
It looks so. Or maybe I get too much wap wap. Wap 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 wap. No, I get it with no at the end, not with yeah.
Well, you seem to like wap wap. So,
I get it with no at the end.
Yes, I think the country is not as anxious around this time as it would have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We used to become very, very anxious leading up to July 27th.
That's true.
And any little thing happen. Remember the jailbreak was around this time too, about
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Yes.
All these things usually, just a sort of weird thing started happening. It started July, and the country has calmed down a lot. We recovered quite well, to be quite honest, because I mean, when you looked at Port of Spain after that with the looting and the fires and stuff, and the looting across the east-west corridor and in some other parts of the country, it was really, really tragic.
You kind of could give Gary a little credit for that, because you remember. No, hold on.
No,
let me finish.
No, finish.
Don't be a Gary hater this morning. No.
I ain't Gary hating, but it's not Gary. No.
Let me finish. I just said when he became commissioner, he was very clear when you asked him questions about that. Actually, just before he became commissioner and during his stint, he said that wouldn't last 2 seconds under his watch. He said that. He used to say that openly. And I'm just saying, when you get people in authority saying things like that, it gives you a little confidence, not so?
Well, a woman like war,
Well, let's hear. It'll be interesting to hear what McDonald Jacob says because we're going to ask that question. We're going to ask him that question this morning. Do you think a 1990 could happen again under his watch?
They could try.
I go ask him. And let me hear him say, you're crazy. 2 seconds after they go in there, they'll be out. I want to hear him say that. Maybe he might say 3.
Because remember when Abu Bakr had committed that terrorist act, and he was purporting that Trinidad and Tobago was to become an Islamic state, That's what he was saying.
He wanted to be appointed Minister of National Security.
Yeah, he said that Trinidad and Tobago was going to become an Islamic state, and I was like, what? But you all are a minority of minorities.
A nutcase, as he was.
Yeah, because,
you beg me to interview here? I said,
there are so many larger religions in the country than Muslim. And you want to make Trinidad and Tobago a Muslim state?
But how was it?
I mean, to so many people, it was so farcical. They thought it was play of the month,
Let me tell you what's ironic.
Some people actually thought it was a play of the month. Remember when Horace James used to do play of the month?
Yes.
They thought it was a play of the month going on TTT when they see these people in Muslim garments and they say, hey, look, play of the month on. Some people thought it was actually play of the month. They didn't think it was real.
I don't know. Now. I didn't think it was real, but at the same time, because of where I lived literally a stone's throw away from the Jamaat on Lockport Street. I heard everything that was going on thereafter. You understand? So it wasn't a play of the month for me. Trust me.
Yeah, but people thought it was. Some people.
The ironic thing is that this man who held up the parliament shoot the prime minister in the leg and then demand elections be called in 90 days. You don't get more crazy and stupid than that.
Well, he was also going to install Dukaran as prime minister, not so? So how was he going to achieve the Muslim state with Dukaran as prime minister?
I don't know.
He was in that case.
Yeah.
And he must be appointed national security minister.
Yeah.
After you shoot up the parliament and bomb the police station?
Yeah.
I tell you, people beg me to interview that man for years. I said no. There's nothing to ask him unless he's willing to apologize to this country and admit what he did was terrorism and wrong. And he was never going to do that. So there was no point in giving him a platform.
He was too arrogant for that.
Just spew more nonsense.
He was way too arrogant for that.
And I've asked his son on several occasions, Fuad, do you endorse or denounce what your father did? My father is his own man. I say, yeah, answer the question, though.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Maybe they'll do it now that he's dead.
No, he won't. No, he won't.
I think they were in awe and a bit probably in fear of him. Eh?
Yeah. He's never denounced him. He never endorsed it. Because he knew that either denouncing or endorsing had serious consequences. So I said, well, what else we need to talk about? Your political ambitions? You can't talk about your political ambitions unless you talk about that. You understand?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's I said, and I will admit it's unfair to you because you're your own man, but you cannot divorce yourself from that legacy.
Yeah.
You can't. So, as much as I see you go around and you talk about the hardships of youth in urban areas, You have to answer. You have to say whether you endorse it or denounce it. And if you endorse it, say why you endorse it. If you denounce it, say why you denounce it.
Well, Fuad, and I've had to say the same already, comes across as a little more provocative than his father. Eh?
Not at all. You can't be more provocative than holding up the White House and shooting the Prime Minister.
No. Well, I'm speaking about lyrically.
But that's all talk. That's just talk.
Well,
that's talk.
I would have hoped so, and I still hope so.
It is talk.
That it's all talk.
No pun intended. That's a gun talk. When you're trying to raise your
one of the strange offshoots of that attempted coup in 1990, for those of you under 32 and not you, Zena, is the fact that the television station went off air because there was only one at the time. It was TTT. We didn't have several television stations. We only had one.
Yeah.
And then somehow they managed to intervene in they managed to get them off the air, and they managed to intervene and started to broadcast their own messages. The people who weren't in Parliament.
Right.
I think Pampton was one.
That is because the army and utilized Bernard Pampton was program manager at TTT at the time, and they went to Cumberland Hill. TTT broadcast from Cumberland Hill and also from Couva. And when Abu Bakr took commandeered the newsroom and Mr. Dominic Khalid-Prasad, they went to Cumberland Hill and took it off the air so as not to propagate the misinformation that Abu Bakr had taken over the country.
Yes. Yeah.
And NBS Radio remained on the air, which I remember, and they were passing the legitimate messages to the population through NBS Radio.
Yeah.
So that is what happened technically.
Another strange or curious occurrence also during that coup is that they broadcast The Little Mermaid. I don't know.
It's what was available.
About 30, 40, 50 times, even maybe as much as 100 times. They just had The Little Mermaid being broadcast on a loop.
Yeah.
With Ariel singing.
And I remember people always ask why we in NBS Radio kept playing Kenny G. But because when you're working them, the Kenny G saxophone record that played so much because it was the longest record available and the most benign.
Yeah, it was longer than Earth, Wind and Fire Reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, I always thought that was the longest.
And songs with lyrics could have been interpreted in all kinds of ways. So playing an instrumental was the easiest thing to do. The most.
I just think that whoever is doing a movie of 1990 eventually, and of course there are many filmmakers emerging out of Trinidad and Tobago now. Whoever is doing 1990, they need to include Little Mermaid, and that Little Mermaid.
They get the rights to include Little Mermaid.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Disney will allow it.
See,
because it featured as part of the 1990 coup.
I don't remember that, Richard.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I remember it clearly.
Because you can't get the commission unless you stay on the phone as people talk about the experiences.
What I do remember from 1990 and during the ensuing curfew and so on, is that we as a family, because we used to lime together so much, we started going about the country. So for the first time, we went to Azarite Nature Center, we went to Aripo, we went to Coral River. We used to just go as a family, as a group, to all over the country at that point in time. Because there was nothing to do after in evening time. So you had to do it during the day. You understand?
That was a time of many curfew parties.
I think Steve has the commissioner on.
Yeah, I do have the
recording in progress.
Commissioner, please. McDonald Jacob, good morning to you, sir. How are you? I
am okay this morning.
Only time you're good and great, all of a sudden I got a okay?
No. you know, just the words that used, but the point is on the positive side. Because as I said, I always have to remain on that side to deal with all the different issues that confront me.
And I'm not buffing you. He accused me of buffing the other day.
Commissioner, I'm going to ask you the first question this morning, and then I'll hand over to my learned colleagues. And it has to do with our poll this morning. Do you believe a 1990 can happen again in Trinidad and Tobago, especially under your watch?
That is a sort of a very difficult question. As we say, anything is possible. But I believe that the way how the police service is now organized, together with our other security support, the Defense Force and all the other agencies, I think no one will put it in the thoughts to attempt such an event again.
So is that a no?
So that is a no.
Running Commissioner, or the outcome will be quite different, I'm sure. At least.
Yeah, the outcome will definitely, and that is the reason why I'm saying that someone will think hard and deep before they will consider attempting something like that.
But don't you think we have people with more radical thinking than we would have had back then, simply because of the crime situation that we're seeing pervading the country? Don't you think we have more radical and daring young men out there?
Well, they are. Yes, we may, but again, when we look at our security services that exist then and now, we are saying that we are more prepared and more organized. And the same way that you may have persons out there that you may consider in these contemporary times might be a little more radical. The same way the security forces are well trained and equipped to deal with any eventuality.
Commissioner, is it a matter of, I know it many years ago, leading up to July 27th, the security forces, including the TTPS, would ramp up surveillance and intensify their systems. Is that still done?
Yeah, that is still done, and we have a greater intelligence network now, working with the other agencies. So the question of just mere presence all over to create the necessary outlook that we will want to give that sense of security. Now it is more based on being intelligence driven, because even though you may ramp up things and make it appear in a particular without the intelligence, things can still go awry. Think about 1990. So our intelligence is at the top level. So if there's any occurrences, we'll be able to get that information and deal with it in quick time.
Have you ever picked up any attempt based on your intelligence over the period?
Well, from my basic information, there have been, how we put it, small groups, chatters in relation to all different sorts of activities. However, one of the main issues that exists in Trinidad and Tobago today is the gang violence situation and the gangs being involved in all different sorts of activities. We are so economically driven now that a lot of our situations is more on the economic side than on the aspect of changing a government or taking over a country. We are so economically driven. That is what drives the criminal activities out there today.
Does the police at all monitor some of the comments being made on social media with regard to that sort of activity? Because quite a few people, you can't verify that that's their actual identification on Facebook and so on, have been making comments indicating things like this, that it's time for this type of activity again. It's time for a coup. Is the police concerned at all about those comments?
Yes, we have been seeing it, and we have been monitoring persons. The mask assists them a lot because they hide behind a mask, and they go out there, and in some instances when you check, you see some persons, basically some of them have some mental issues, at different things. We on top of our game with that. We don't monitor it alone. We have the other intelligence and security services that monitor those things also on the social media. We have a social media department, our cyber and social media department, who deals with the monitoring of that on behalf of the police service. But there are also other agencies and things that are actually analyzed and put together, and in some instances we take the necessary action. And that is how, when we do the profiles of the individuals, we'll know who we are dealing with, and we'll know who might be a threat and who may not be a threat.
So the substantive reason we invite you this morning is to, of course, discuss the documentary that will be launched this evening at Queen's Hall, produced by the members of the TTPS, called Code 727, which chronicles from the TTPS perspective the events of 1990, July 27, 1990. First of all, what does Code 727 mean in police language?
Well, it deals with situations where there is, in fact, some extreme emergency. And with that code, it will indicate certain actions that need to be taken on behalf of the police. That is where we are at a, kind of crisis stage. And with that, certain activities will be implemented by the police service. This event this afternoon, we don't want to, take all the eggs out of the bag, but this event this afternoon is really and truly depicting and hearing the conversations. Is a documentary with some of our officers who were directly involved in, for the first time, you'll hear directly from them in this documentary, who were directly involved in the incident at the Parliament building and also at the then police headquarters, what we call the old police headquarters. So, you'll be getting, all the information about what actually took place from the police side of it. We heard from several different entities, the Defense Force, journalists, parliamentarians, but we never heard the police side. All we got is information. Persons make sly jokes about the police concerning the 1990 situation. So it is necessary that we come out there and let the general public know, the nation know, the police side of it, and what.
Why did it take 32 years for the police to feel the need to tell their story?
I know about the exact same question. Why 32 years later?
Well, I cannot. It is really difficult for me to answer that.
You've been there 40 years?
Yes, the corporate communication together with the administration of the police service at this stage, so it fit in order to do it. This is something that I understand that a lot of persons made attempts in order to do something like that, and we decided this is the time and we will do it. And I decided it must be done.
So what's so special? What's so special then about Joanne Archie and Michelle Lewis that they get to do what the police couldn't do in 32 years?
I cannot answer that either. When you say and personalizing it, I choose not to personalize it. This is something organized by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the executive. It is not something that just came up a month ago. We have been working on it for a while now. The victims of this event, some of our retired officers have been, showing some willingness. Some of them did not show the willingness years ago to come forward. Now they reach a stage that they are willing, and we felt that since we are getting that willingness, it is the right time to do it. And especially for our younger officers, because we had it on Saturday for a lot of the younger officers to see what it is, because the question that you'll ask, whether or not something like this could happen again. And I said anything is possible, but preparation is the key, and prevention is what you want to deal with. So we wanted the younger officers to be aware of what took place, some of the positives, the negatives. So we already run the documentary with the younger officers on Saturday. And now it will be for the general public this evening.
Commissioner, now, without letting too much out of the bag, because I had a chance to see the first draft of it a couple of weeks ago, and it's really riveting television. What will surprise, without letting, because of course it'll be aired this afternoon at Queen's Hall with the hierarchy of the executive and the country. What will surprise people most about this? And you mentioned the young officers and how they view it a while ago, but from the public perspective, what do you think the public will take away from this most of all?
I think the public will really see the resilience and the commitment of our officers, and seeing that the officers on them are human beings, and the effort that they made in 1990, together with the other law enforcement agencies and the defense force, to quell a situation that existed in Trinidad and Tobago, and what we had out there is information. And as I told you before, there were even jokes about certain situations, about how the police responded, and we will get a better picture, a true picture of what really took place.
What was one of the jokes told?
No, one of the jokes, and you will see it in the documentary, and one of the persons will be talking about it, where a police officer, senior officer, had changed his uniform and was about to leave to go to his home, and the incident happened, and his uniform was found at some location. And the joke is that he, as a senior officer, took off his uniform and ran down the road, in fear, and there were no resistance from the police, and and that is a joke out there, and it's not a tourism.
Yeah. How much, Commissioner, how much does the documentary look at the police officers who died? Because I always remember Solomon McLeod, who was the first one to die, and he was I think he was the sentry at the police headquarters, and I think he was actually the first person to die in that attempted coup when they shot him and ran over him and detonated a bomb in a car, and that has always been one of those stories, a tragic story out of that attempted coup. Are those stories covered in that documentary?
Yes, it will be reenacted. That actual incident will be reenacted by persons like, actors, reenacted of the situation. Yes, it will be. But what we are actually showing is not even, as we mentioned, not even the full pulse action of the police, because we had action taken by the police in the south of Trinidad, in the north of Trinidad, but we choose to concentrate basically on the main two locations, because I was a detective working in the southern region at that time, and there were certain activities there and certain action taken by us, the police, and there were incidents where the defense force personnel from the southern region joined with us, together with officers who worked in the administration building in Port of Spain and couldn't come to Port of Spain to work. And we had a whole cadre of officers out there with certain locations that we had to deal with sympathizers. We even had instances to look for a particular vehicle that we intercepted that was alleged to come to attempt to blow up the San Fernando police station. And there are other stories as it relates to what was done in the northern area in relation to the police and the defense was working hand in hand with the securing of the airport. There is a lot of things that were not told, but in this documentary we concentrated basically on the two main points, in Port of Spain, that is the Parliament building and the old police headquarters.
Commissioner, how many police officers died in that attempted coup?
2 police officers.
2. That was the sentry, and where was the other one?
Was the other one Giuseppe?
at the Parliament building.
Was
Yeah, at
that
the
the
Red
was that
House.
the driver or bodyguard of some one of the ministers at the time? I think.
Yes, please. And I don't want to, I don't want to say yes and make any mistakes. So I have seen yes, but everything will be cleared. This afternoon will be clarified this afternoon.
Okay.
Now, certainly part of the reason is to, as you said, to imbue with the younger officers a sense of pride and history as to the resilience of the TT Police Service. How and will this be used to help restore in the wider public some level of trust and confidence? The police have been going through quite a bit of challenges lately in that regard.
Well, we're hoping, number one, that it really, build that a higher level of respect, and confidence in the police. Yes, that is one. Number two, it is necessary that the persons who are involved and who are alive today will also be honored this afternoon. So, they have secondary victims and think their families and think their children will be present, and we will be treating them in a special way, for the work that they did, the as I said, the resilience, and their commitment. So that will be dealt with, and that shows respect also for our officers and the job that they are doing. We believe at the end of the day, it will augur well within the community.
Will an opportunity be taken this afternoon, Commissioner? Because this is a question that we've been asking for a little while now, in terms of compensation for officers and the officers' families who have fallen in the line of duty. And will an opportunity be taken this afternoon to make presentations to them, maybe by way of that $1 million check?
No, well, we do have retrospective activities and laws, when you look at when the incident happened, and that is something that is beyond us in relation to government decisions made by the government of $1 million for officers who died in the line of duty, and that was after the fact. We will be doing something, yes, but it is something that can be taken in consideration.
Right. No, I'm saying that even the officers, I know that it wasn't in place then, but even the ones who would have fallen in the line of duty since the decision was made, have they ever received that check and at all?
Again, the officers who have fallen in line of duty, from my understanding, is that there may be one or two who were in fact compensated. There is a procedure in relation to it. The normal thing, you have to depend on letters of administration and to be done, to ensure that you give the right person the finance. The Ministry of National Security handles that, and I haven't heard any complaints concerning from families in relation to that aspect, because even though some may not have received it, they may understand the procedure that need to be followed.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Of course.
Is there any reason why that the police would have gone for a softer look and maybe a softer tone with the people they have now championing the cause of the public information going out to the public?
You need to
with Miss Archie and Miss Lewis, is that a deliberate attempt by the police to give a softer look and a softer tone to how they interact with the public? Because we know the people who have been interacting on behalf of the police in the past have mostly been male officers. Is that a deliberate attempt? Is that a deliberate effort on behalf of the police?
Well, number one, if that's what it is doing, it is a positive. But I don't think when the decision was made, we sat down and we say, we want to do X to achieve Y. What I can say that Ms. Archie is now operating as a consultant, contrary to what I saw in some other newspaper, is operating as a consultant, assisting in our corporate communication, And Miss Lewis, she was already an ambassador operating, and is also qualified in the area of communication. So it so happened that she was, in fact, because of her rank and her expertise, I don't know if you know her history and her family history in that area, we felt it was right to put her. And then Miss Archie, who understands both sides of it, the police service and how it operates, and having her master's in corporate communication, I felt that it was the right fit for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in going forward.
Okay.
But can we be remiss of us not to have you on and not ask you if you can give us any updates on the investigation into the shooting of the 3 young men by police, or the men who died at the hands of police from the Betham recently, and also the infamous body cam situation?
Well, the body cams, number one answer that is ongoing. I have people doing the training in Tobago right now. Right, today is what? Yes, I think yesterday they did the training in Tobago, and they will carry the 100 body cams to Tobago. So that is being done in Tobago. And last week, other persons were trained and body cams were handed over. We will do in a short clip on how the body cams work. We will be put out there.
How long does this training take per officer?
No, that just take approximately about 2 hours to the most. The first thing is the dealing with it, as some people said, it's simplistic. But what happened, you want officers also to understand the philosophy behind it, the value of it. So a part of the training is not just how you put it on, how you take it off, how you put it in the docking system, but also there's a part of it where you'll bring the officers to that understanding and appreciation of the tool, how it can be used, how it can benefit them, how it fits in the whole aspect of policing and the criminological aspect, So you'll have that part of that scary part of it.
Are you suggesting, and I could be totally wrong, that it's not mandatory, or the officers have to be convinced or encouraged to wear body cams?
No, it is mandatory, but as you well know, that the psychology behind something is very important. And when persons have an understanding and appreciation of it, you will get that indirect, total, intrinsic willingness to do it, and they will appreciate what they have, and they will also convince others. Because we came in with the body cams, and as anything new, there will be some measure of resistance, and some people believe that it might be a negative to their activities. And in some quarters, that was put out there, like if the body cam is something negative to the police, while it is something positive. So knowing that, we need to deal with that aspect of it, even though, right, it is a simple tool to use. We had something called GPS handset that we had officers using, and it is so valuable to them even when they go in forested areas where they can do journey to crime. They can, if at one point they can in fact find where they came from, and it wasn't being used effectively. And it's only when we started to do the theory part of it, showing them the value of it, how it can be used to their benefit, then you got an increased use, in a positive way with the GPS handset.
Yeah,
But Commissioner, former recently retired officer Sheridan Hill said in one of the press conferences that it is not law for police officers to wear body cams. It's not part of the law or the police regulations.
It is not.
Has that changed?
Let me answer. It is not part of the police regulations, but the police don't operate only on the police regulations, which is laws that is passed in Parliament. We have our standing orders and our departmental orders, which are rules made by the Commissioner of Police with the executive that the officers and them need to follow. And if they don't follow it, they will be dealt with departmentally. The regulations is different where in some instances it could end up being an offense where someone could even be charged in the open court. But our standing orders and our departmental orders are there that the police officers have to comply with. So that kind of technical talk about whether or not this is law, if the answer if it is law, it is not in the law, in our regulation per se, but it is in our rules, because we have a standing order that governs the use of the body cams. And if persons violate it, they will be dealt with. And it is also linked not with the body cams alone, but also the dash cams in the vehicle and what are the requirements.
How many body cams does the TTPS have at this point?
Active.
Well, in first instance, the TTPS have 1,100 and about 60 body cams. At present, there are about 600 officers now fitted with these body cams to use from the last time we spoke and the training that was done. I think the last time I gave you all 409 something, and then we reached the 558, and now we are around 600. When the training is completed in Tobago, there will be added number. So as we are going along, we are hoping, and I made the promise that by the end of August, we should cover, right? If not all, but at least 1,000 and more in relation to persons using the body cams.
So as we speak now, 600 officers are wearing body cams.
Right, throughout Trinidad and Tobago, yes.
Are these in high tension situations or traffic situations or both?
Well, we mainly look for our frontline officers, and we had, as I mentioned to you, we had some challenges where some of our task forces were located in order for our IT people to run and do the necessary technical work, because some of them may not be directly in some technological wired locations. I will give you an example. We have persons in a place called Lionsgate in Central, where our task forces function from together with the defense force in order that they can have close proximity to that enterprise Londonville area that we have incidents of a high level of violent crime. That is not a police facility per se. So therefore, our IT now have to go in and do some work there to ensure that the task force that is going there to do patrols mainly in Central Division, right, is in fact fitted with the body cams, with the docking system and so forth. So we have those challenges. I just give you one example, but we are in fact doing things to correct it. In most of these stations, you will find that there is in fact already wired, and it's just to do some simple movement in order to ensure that we are in readiness to do it. But then in some locations where we have the task force, we also have our task force and persons operating out of a center in St. Joseph, St. John's Road, where you have the defense force and the police work from there together to deal with patrols in the hills of Tunapuna and El Dorado, and that is a makeshift center that will not be wired accordingly. So, that is where the extra will come in to ensure that these officers, when they return, they can in fact have the docking system, everything there. So we are trying to deal with the challenges. We have several locations like that. We have St. Barb's up in Laventille, where we have task force persons working out also. You will have the same challenges in those locations. So because of having reasons to pull persons out of the basic stations to be placed in certain hot areas that they can respond in a particular manner, we are encountering those challenges, but we are dealing with it.
Commissioner, how many police officers currently make up the TTPS?
Well, we have about 7,000, but we have about 5,600 active. We'll have persons who are on vacation leave, sick leave, injury leave, So we have active about 5,600.
So by the end of August, 1/5 of the police force will have body cams.
Yeah,
1/5 of the active police service. Is
and-
that because you're saying 1,000, so it'll be 1/5 of the 5,000?
Yeah. Average of 1/5. And
At any point, do you expect to cross 50%?
well, as we go into the new budgetary period, we are going to get additional body cams. So what we are going to do is that every year we'll try to improve on the number of body cams that we expect. We will want to get at least, as you are correct, at least 50% of our officers need to have body cams, because about 50% of our officers are really and truly frontline officers who are patrolling in the ERP, in the higher patrol, in the task forces, and even persons in the CID. We also have given body cams to some of our persons in the specialized areas, because when they are going to execute search warrants and things, whether even though are white-collared crime investigators, it is very good that they have body cams that they can use. So it wouldn't be necessarily one individual officer, but that particular section will be given a certain number, so that when because they are not frontline, they more do, the background investigation, but at times they'll need to go and execute search warrants, and they will be without the body cams to wear to assist them.
Commissioner, I'm glad you raised the issue of white-collar crime, because it's a message that I got from one of our ardent listeners, a senior businessman in the country, in terms of an update on what's happening with white-collar crime, because a lot of time we focus on blue-collar and what's happening in the communities. What about white-collar crime? An update on that.
Well, our white-collar crime unit, the financial investigative unit, the ECIB, Anti-Corruption Bureau, and the Fraud Squad are doing a lot of work. They have been charging a lot of persons, a lot of production orders. They have charged several persons for money laundering, and they continue doing the work. Why they are not getting traction that they should get with the amount of work that they are doing? There are some high-profile white-collar crime investigations that are still outstanding to be completed. But as they go along doing those investigations, there's a lot of outcomes. I think about...
Why isn't this being made public?
Yeah, and there's going about 6 weeks ago, we had our persons on press conference on the white-collar crime unit, the ECIB. So, like, sometimes when we run it, we need to run it again, because we had a press conference, we had the head of the ECIB and the financial investigators and fraud there, and they mentioned all the work that they did, and all it takes to take away from that is one question asked after the press brief, the official press brief, and they ask one question and someone say something, and everything else in the press brief will dissipate, and that one question and answer is what might be carried in the news. So I will talk, there's something else to be talking to Ms. Archie and them about, because we will let our people come forward, and they will give a lot of information concerning all the work that they are doing, highlighting it, some of the issues that they are having with production orders, some of the challenges that they're having with some of the institutions that have to supply information, because documentary information that is needed. And they will come there, and at the end of the day, it's just one questioner, a reply, and that is it. So we now, from our corporate communication side, have to know to counter that, so that the message will be out there with the sort of work that our white-collared crime departments are actually doing. They are doing magnificent work. And what I'm looking forward to, in order for us to really have true police legitimacy, in the last meeting I had with them, I told them, yes, we cannot look for, sacrifice the whole aspect of speed for accuracy, but it is necessary that we bring things to closure, because it interferes with our police legitimacy. And it might appear that we are only concerned about the conventional street crime, while we know as a fact that a lot of the white-collared crime is fueling some of the street crime, and there's a direct link in some instances of who's supplying, the financing and things like that. So that is the reason why.
Yeah, but Commissioner, we have heard that for years and years and years. So saying the sentence doesn't make it more real for us and doesn't make us feel more confident that that's being dealt with. We've heard that for decades, that white collar crime is fueling this and there is a link, and the country has always been dissatisfied that those links have not been closed. So what makes you saying it now any different to what has been said before?
Well, I definitely have to say it, and because I have the confidence that we will, in fact, we bring
Did we lose the commissioner?
Justice, and we have done so in the past, and we'll need to come forward and highlight it even more, because, as I said, it have a way of, when these things happen, it's suppressed in some instances, but we'll need to highlight it because we have done good work within the last few months and things, but a lot of things is not highlighted how it should. So we will in fact do that. But there is a direct link, and we are looking at following the money, and we know once we follow the money, our FIB will tell you about how much under the Proceeds of Crime Act, the amount of matters that we have in court where we seize and how many production orders we have done. I will let them come again in a press brief and let you.
But as you're talking about updating on those issues, it's a conversation that we have a lot of the times on the Power Breakfast Show. The issue of so many crimes that take place that are of concern to citizens, and we never know what happens after. The TTPS doesn't give us an update of whether people have been captured or not. So it just goes into this murky fog of not knowing what has taken place. A perfect example is the two guys that we saw breaking into the car on Arapita Avenue, which of course is a major liming spot for so many Trinidadians and Tobagonians across the country. And here was a crime of opportunity, of brazen opportunity, where people broke windows to get access to a vehicle, and we just know nothing of whether there has been ramped up patrols on the Arapita Avenue, because it is a area of a lot of leisure and of course
business too.
And business. And we just never heard anything. And there's so many examples like that where that disconnect happens, and we're just not sure whether the police is even ramping up patrols because of it, whether the people have been captured. We know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No, there are two issues that they dealt with there: the following up and the feedback in relation to the persons who were charged, right? And that I know that Joan Archie and others, they are listening, so that we have the information. We need to come up with a way that we can highlight those things. And just last week, the senior superintendent in charge of Porter's Plain Division and the superintendent in charge of municipal police, I mandate them to go on the press conference where they were in fact they had the responsibility to highlight to the nation and especially the burgesses in Port of Spain and Woodbrook of what they are doing in order to redress some of those issues. So that press conference that was done last week dealt with that whole aspect and how we have ramped up things in relation, because Arapita Avenue have returned to the Arapita Avenue that we knew before, and there's a lot of activities taking place, and even at this point the residents are complaining about the high level of noise and activities that is existing there. So they were mandated and they came on the press brief.
I remember that. I remember seeing that. But there's another case, Commissioner, where the reporter, the media personality, was knocked down while cycling around the savannah. The car was traced. The registered owner of the car was brought in for questioning, but we have heard nothing again about that case since.
Yeah, again, you see, the investigation is ongoing, and we are tied between a rock and a hard place. I will tell you why. The public need information, but we have to be careful with what information we put out there when an investigation is going on. That can, in fact, depending on what is released, can hamper the matter when persons or if persons are charged and placed before the court. So therefore, you need to sift things, and we have to be able to let the public know, yes, the investigation is ongoing, but the information that we put out there, we need to be careful, and we are always cautioned by the DPP in relation to that aspect of releasing information concerning the investigation that can hamper the matter when it is before the court. So yes, we know the public need to get the information, but we have to balance things. So that's the reason why you need people. That's the reason why you need people like Ms. Archie and them to come on board who understand this thing well and will have to find the right balance in the releasing of the information. So I take what you are saying, but we need to really strike a balance that some way that we can provide constant updates, but not to interfere with the ongoing investigation.
Before we close off, Commissioner, could you give us an update too on the firearm users licenses and where we are with that? Because we've been hearing a lot of talk concerning the resumption, and then we hear a lot of talk concerning what may have happened in the past.
And a lot of the talk that we may be hearing is a lot of lies. Persons deliberately is going on social media lying about a lot of things concerning the police service, and I can't see, they know what they're getting out of it. The firearm section has been opened fully since the 13th of June this year. The audit that was being done has been completed and the report has submitted. We are operating, but they also deal with the pepper spray, where we were dealing with the whole aspect of making sure we get it digitized, so a lot of the issues can be done online. So the firearm section is done. I caused 10 persons to be specially trained, and I placed them in there in the month of June to add to the staff who are there. The persons who were doing the audit, who were working there, they were very concerned about COVID-19, so I had a sort of less staff there. But when they move out, I was able now to include the 10 additional persons. We also deal with the supplemental police part, where you deal with all the security companies and so forth. Well, that has been operational since in March, right? And then we were also doing other work in relation to persons who, in fact, got the provisional permit that was there from since last year. Probably if you make a call, you'll hear how many of them have gotten through for the year so far, because there's over 1,000 more activities I have done in relation to the firearm section. But the persons who wish to continue saying that nothing is happening, I don't know why, but I said they are fully operational. They had some issues where persons said they're calling and they, in fact, they didn't get through because the line constantly busy. I am now making arrangements with our ICT section and think to put in at least another 2 lines there and have somebody directly dealing with calls coming in instead of the normal workers, so we deal and provide a proper service to the general public. However, we are pushing forward to put most of our things online, so applications and things can be done online, and the same thing like what we dealt with the pepper spray. So we want to modernize it, and there are recommendations made by the persons who did the audit, and there are some other work being done by the ministry to assist. But we need to digitize our operations, and we have a software called Gunkeeper that will now make things much easier. So we have persons trained in that aspect and with our ICT department. So all that work is being done there to get everything operationalized in an effective manner.
Well, Commissioner, as we end the conversation, I just wanted to know whether the app and whether the online reporting system that was introduced prior to your tenure is still active. Can people still report crimes online, and is the app still active?
Well, I am not too sure which app you're talking about, but I can tell you about...
You all have more than one app?
Right? Yes, there may be more than one app, but I will be referring to hopefully the same app that you are talking about. Now, we have the different ways of reporting. There's an app that you can call in and make, you can in fact go online and make a report. When that report is made, the police still need to do all the follow through. They still need to come and interview, right? It come like if you just give basic information. That app is very, very vital to us in relation to that. But when an analysis was done of the app over a 6 month period, there were approximately 3 reports of a major, let us say a major crime. But all the other reports were in fact dealing with loud music and minor issues. It was costing us approximately 400 and something thousand per quarter for the maintenance of that app. I decided not to continue with that app because when I do the cost analysis, it was affecting us because of what we're getting out of it. I have the ITC people looking that when that contract may end very soon, we are using it, but when the contract ends very soon, we will not be renewed. We're looking to see whether or not we can get something more reasonable to continue with such an app. Yes, it is important to us, but cost analysis must be done. So,
but minor offenses often lead to major offenses. So why are you sounding dismissive of minor offenses or what you are construing as minor? Because a lot of those neighborhood issues, which is what I think you are referring to, where people are saying loud music and stuff, you refer to it as minor and you kind of seemingly brushed it off. But they can lead to major incidents.
I tend to agree and disagree with you. And our cohort analysis we have done, and we see minor offenses has developed into serious offenses. So what you are telling me, we are aware of that as law enforcement officers, but an app is not the only way and means of persons making reports. We have several other ways and means. And one of the first things that persons normally do when we tell them call 999, and that report is done unregistered. We distribute all the station telephone numbers. A lot of the instances, persons may choose to go into the station. There are several different ways in which the app is just another added way of making reports. So to make the statement that if we are not really concerned will be unfair, because there are several other ways and means of making reports. The app is not the only one, and we have been existing since 18 something, and we have been using other methods. We now introduce 555, right, as another way to call. We have 800 tips. We have 5 different ways in which persons can make reports to the police. The app is just carried to fix. So therefore, all the actions that we have done in the past in relation to looking at our cohort studies concerning incidents, it comes from, and in most instances, when we analyze our 999 report, you will see in some instances about 60% sometimes tend to be crank calls. When we reach the point of getting the actual report on our records management database, there is where the analysis can be done in any sort of effective way to show validity and reliability in the reporting. When the officers now will go and interview, you will call and say, I was just robbed on Richmond Street. And when the officers and them go and investigate the report, in our language, is a larceny from the person, where somebody snatched something from you and run away. But in your terms, it will be a robbery. Now that will go onto our database, and that is where now our analysts can do the analytical work to be done in order for us to know the number of robberies larceny from the person, and then they will now do the profiling to see if it is the same person who may commit the larceny from the person who may have been committing the robberies. So our records management database is in fact the foundation issue for us to do our analysis to decide on the report. We have serious crimes, minor offenses, and other matters. and all those things have to reach our records management database. So our app is just another way of making a report online, but then the investigators must do what is required, and then they do the coded forms that goes onto a records management database where all the analytical work can be done.
Commissioner, is it can people contact you personally? What is the best and easiest way to do so? Is it via WhatsApp or email?
Via WhatsApp and by email, because our email is cop@ctps.gov.tt. So that is where we use it easily. cop@ctps.gov.
But that email is not personal to you. That'll be read by other people.
Well, that email is personal to me and two of my staff members who work directly out of my office.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner, just before I go, I just want to say one thing. Two things. I had the opportunity to call 999 a couple of times, about 6 weeks ago, 2 months. I was put on hold. That is one. Two, when I made that call, I had a police officer call me back 15 minutes later to ask me what it is I reported. And I said it was just some fellas throwing stones at cars and they were fighting and so on. That time, that I had enough time to go home, change, have a cup of coffee, and then for them to call me. I think that needs to be revisited, especially when you're calling 999 to be put on hold. But the other part of it, kudos to the TTPS. We know someone whose car was stolen on Friday evening between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. And on Friday night, the car did not have GPS tracking, but the police actually found the car. So kudos to you and your team on that. And last evening, there was a armed robbery in the Curepe Southern Main Road. And the police actually apprehended the individual and the firearm. So kudos to the TDPS on that.
Yeah. Thanks so much, and I want to give kudos to my traffic and highway patrol persons too, because within the last 2 months and running new interceptors exercise, patrolling, if I just awarded them last week, where there are something like 23 interceptions so far, where they got AK-47 pistols, drugs, in relation to our new system that we are operating on the highways and by, and I could to them also to run a system. So within that, we have been very successful in interceptions, and our response time has improved tremendously in the method that we are using to get more vehicles and trained up the field persons. You will see more and more positive things coming up. In relation to the 999, we are working hand in hand with the ministry that our E999 operational center is linked directly with the Ministry of National Security that have with a say in that operational center. We are working with them in order to remedy that problem. We're talking about a few seconds or a minute delay means a lot. So the system that they are using, where the operator takes the call and then transfers to a police officer who is there, then we are looking to iron out that, because we got a lot of complaints about that method of operating.
Wonderful. And they need to tell people and pull over people when they're driving slow on your right lane.
Yeah, well, I used to experience that a lot coming from south.
Yes.
And,
common sense ain't all that common, apparently.
Yeah, it's something that we broadly...
Pull them over. Charge them.
Roll up on that, because it's a lot of problem and back up on the...
Obstructing traffic.
And that comes like dangerous driving too, You can fall into, because of it causes persons to be bobbing in and out and doing all sorts of things and creating problems.
Right.
So people have been alerted in relation to it. We even use the CCTV and show them situations and how it is affecting the traffic flow.
Lovely. So I would look forward to seeing some police vehicles pulling over cars, tell them to go to the left. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Commissioner,
all right.
Could you repeat the email address to me?
Morning.
Could you repeat the email?
No, COP
COP,
at TTPS
TTPS.
COP at ttps.tt.
.tt, or you can do McDonald .jacob
Uh-huh.
at tps.gov.tt. That is the one I alone will see.
Well, now your email is going to be flooded.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr.
That- that-
Commissioner.
Yeah, you know, to take report complaints and things from and to provide proper service to the people in the nation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Your predecessor gave out his cell number and had about 3,000 messages every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I'm sure you could do better.
no, it would be very difficult for I to manage that and manage the police service. So that is the reason for the emails, and some people will send WhatsApp who have my number, but we have different systems. We even have our office number here, 623-8428 and 8429. So they can get the commissioner's office. So that number is also available.
623-8429.
Yeah, or 8428.
All right. Thank you very much.
No, well, now you can message back the
You felt
people
a little
that
jab there
message you.
just now. It didn't escape me, but
All right, Commissioner, I know we spent a lot of time with us this morning, and I want to thank you for being with us this morning. Again, you want to reiterate this afternoon or this evening, I don't know what time.
Yeah, well, this afternoon at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You
6
know.
p.m.
Yeah, 6 p.m. You know, it will be, you know, a youth event. Police will get the opportunity who involved in the 1919 coup to identify exactly their role and functions and what took place. I think it will be something worth, a documentary worth looking at.
All right, and this is going to be unveiled at Queen's Hall, I believe,
Yes, at Queen's Hall.
at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Commissioner Jacobs, I want to thank you so much for being on the Power Breakfast Show. Always accommodating, and I do appreciate it.
No problem at all.
And I won't buff you next time. All the best to you. Take care and be safe.
Bye. Yeah.
All righty. All the best. All right. Of course, that was Acting Commissioner of Police, McDonald Jacob. All right. So we are very late. Gregory / AV have been upset with me, and